Hi, I'm Rudy Golain, the CapeCod.com News Center, and welcome to Sunday Journal. I'm joined today by two special guests here to talk about the Seaside Le Mans event upcoming, a race that is going to be raising some money for some local organizations on Cape, a lot of great missions. I'm joined today by two guests who are going to introduce themselves. Morgan, do you mind just telling us a little bit more? Your new face. We're going to talk about your experience, but yeah, just tell us who you are, what's your position with the organization.
Absolutely. My name is Morgan Dexter. I am the event coordinator / race coordinator for the Seaside Le Mans Race for the Cape Cod community.
All right, awesome. And Matt, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Grady. Always great to be here. I'm Matt Pitta, Director of Communications with the Davenport Companies, and we're the company that basically puts together the Seaside Le Mans.
All right, awesome. Now, I want to ask a little bit, you were on before, and you touched on some of the beneficiaries, but as well, Morgan, you're fresh to this role. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your experiences, kind of like what you do. Do you mind kind of giving us a quick rundown of what the race is for people who might not be familiar, especially as we get more and more people coming down every year to visit? I can imagine a lot of new faces. So yeah, can you just give us a quick rundown, maybe some of the beneficiaries for this year's race?
Yes, of course. So I professionally come from a sales background.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in the lumber industry for quite a few years. But personally, I come from a strong theater background in the nonprofit space. So when this opportunity came upon my plate, I guess, it was one of those things that I was really passionate about. And coming from an arts background, I really am passionate about arts and nonprofit worlds and music. And so from that experience, I started doing theater on the Cape when I was very little with most of my family. And we have been doing theater together, which is a really special thing. Many people have referred to us as the Von Trapps, which is kind of a good and not so good thing. But yeah, so I came across this opportunity to be the race director, and they graciously made me a part of the team, and I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Bringing that family-oriented focus is interesting to see. How has it been? We asked a little bit off camera. I was like, "Whoa, you're involved in theater. That's really interesting." Are you doing any shows lately? And you said, "No, we're deep in the preparation time for it." So, what does preparation for the Seaside Le Mans look like? Well, I imagine these weeks are like the busiest of your lives for right now. Is it gassing up the cars? Like, what is there to do essentially in this prep? And yeah, just give us a little bit of what you're looking forward to.
Absolutely. There's many aspects of it. I actually got to drive in the race a few years back because I worked for one of the sponsors. Mm-hmm. So I was familiar with the event when I started to be a part of the team, but I had no idea what it took to put this event on. I mean, you think about any sort of single detail that goes into something like this. That's what we have to do. And my position specifically, I help out with other events throughout the company, but this is what I work on pretty much 365 days a year. Mm-hmm. So from getting sponsors for the race to picking our beneficiaries for the race to just like you said, gassing up the karts, getting those all ready, buying new tires. I've learned more about go-karts in the last few months than I would ever thought I would know in my entire life.
I'm surprised the two of you haven't shown up just like covered in grease in pure preparation. So it's this race. It's at Mashpee Commons that races. You're able to buy some tickets and be a part of it. It's teams. It's a rally race, is my understanding, or is it relay or rally? I always was trying to make sure I get that one right, technicalities wise.
So the way it works, we tell people, especially the drivers, when we're kind of doing the training, and they have a little bit of an online course that they take so they understand what it's all about. And we tell people that it's not about being the fastest team, but it's about the cleanest laps, right? Mm-hmm. So think of it as when all the teams start, it's who has the most number of laps without penalties. So you may have had the fastest lap or a fastest lap. That does not mean you're going to win. Mm. So there's a lot of strategy to that. And we tell people really focus on having good, clean runs around the track. Fewer penalties. You don't end up in the penalty box because safety has to be a number one priority. Because you're sitting in these karts. These are not, if you think about some of the go-kart tracks on the Cape, they're fun, but this is a step up. These are F1-Style karts, and they move pretty quickly. So you're actually fully suited in a fire suit, helmet, neck brace, etc., little head sock and everything. So you got it all. You look just like Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights, which happened to be on last night before we taped this.
They knew. They were free advertised. I'm imagining the invisible fire scene all over.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we tell people it's about having good, clean laps. You don't want to be smashing into barriers or hitting other people because you will get penalized. And when you get penalized as a driver, you get put into the penalty box. When that happens, you're losing time, right? So at the end of the race, it's how many laps were completed. and not who is the fastest at doing it. So
it's very interesting. It almost becomes more like golf. Like efficiency is the name of the game more than speed. The need for speed. I know as well. So both of you have raced before, and so I know you were earlier when it was in Hyannis. Speaking of penalties,
and then
Matt.
I'm apparently not allowed to drive anymore. I allegedly hit a wall and allegedly bumped somebody, and so
we don't know.
And allegedly I was driving for the CCV team, and allegedly I was blamed for losing. Allegedly.
I'm going to go get Michelle from upstairs and bring her in for this one.
I think to this day blames me for the historic and emotional loss that we suffered that some have never recovered from.
Some who may or may not be able to listen to this segment of Sunday Journal up on CapeCod.com whenever they please. So you've raced as well. Do you mind kind of sharing, Morgan, who you were racing with at the time?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like how your experience was that time as well? I know Matt is a devil behind the wheel. But how are you when it comes to
I went into it completely inexperienced. I mean, I drove for Mid-Cape Home Centers.
Okay.
They were generous to let me have one of their driver slots at the time. So I think they actually, one of their drivers had dropped out. They had like some sort of conflict. So I really only found out about it a few weeks before.
Yeah, right. It was an accident, right?
Yeah, totally an accident.
Didn't have
exactly.
Anything to do with you pushing them or anything that let you get that slot.
Yes.
But okay, yeah, but continue. Please.
So they asked me to do it, and I said, wow, that sounds really fun. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into, and I had absolutely no driving experience other than the tiny little go-kart tracks that you see here on the Cape where you can barely fit in as an adult. So, but I felt like a little kid out there. It really is an awesome experience, but it's tough. You can, we call it the red mist, is when you get your adrenaline goes up and you start to not be able to focus when you're driving. And that's a very real thing. And if you don't pay attention and pay attention to our safety precautions, it's really important to kind of get past that red mist. But it was really fun. I felt like a little kid again, and I don't think I would do it again because it wasn't for me, but I'm glad I did it and marked that off my bucket list.
That is awesome. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's a public event. People can go and watch it. It's like a little mini NASCAR event, essentially, or F1, as you already mentioned before. Mm-hmm. From the outside perspective, it looks like so much fun, my humble opinion. But I can imagine once you get the helmet on, you can hear your own breath in your ears. Then I can imagine it definitely getting more dramatic as you go. So as well, I mean, it benefits a lot of local organizations. I wasn't sure if Matt or Morgan, if you wanted to kind of take it away and mention some of the beneficiaries for this year's event. Some of them are definitely things that people are familiar with every facet of the life. I believe we have up on here. I have a list here. Cape Cod Healthcare, that's pretty much everybody is familiar with. But can you kind of run down the line? Let us know who else is benefiting this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually, before I say who we're benefiting this year, we've benefited over 55 nonprofit organizations on the Cape and raised over $9 million, which is really great. And maybe not this year, but we're on our way to reach 10 million, which is really, really exciting over the 23 years we've been doing this. So this year, as you mentioned, we have Cape Cod Healthcare. We have Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance. They're a new beneficiary for us this year. We have Children's Cove. We have the Brazilian Resource Center, and we have Heroes in Transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, touching a lot of different facets of Cape Cod life in general, from health to food and industry and everything else involved too. Is there how do you mind kind of talking about the vetting process when it comes to who you pick? Is it basically coming down to like how can we benefit the most people? Is there kind of a process to it that you can touch on for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to let Matt take this one because he's more involved in the process of choosing them than I am.
Okay. It's almost a year-long process. Thanks, Morgan. It's almost a year-long process. So very quickly after the race, the committee, the charitable giving committee, will convene. DeWitt Davenport, our CEO, who came up with this race 23 years ago, he will put on rotation different members of the team from all of our different companies across the Davenport Companies. We have real estate division, Thurwood Place, Blue Rock Golf Course, all of our different companies. So he has a diverse group of team members from all those companies sit on the charitable giving committee. So throughout the year, we receive inquiries and applications from organizations looking to get funding from Seaside Le Mans. So that will be collected, that's being collected now and throughout the summer. The Charitable Giving Committee will start meeting pretty much, last year I think we met 4 weeks after the first Seaside Le Mans ended. They will meet throughout the fall into the early winter. And last year we probably had, 8 or 9 vetting sessions. So the committee gets together They take in the dozens and dozens of organizations that are seeking funding, and they begin the vetting process. So a small group, 1 or 2 members of that charitable giving committee will reach out to the organization and go and meet usually with maybe their director or whoever their top kind of organizational person is, do the first round of vetting, look at some of their financials. As they're all nonprofits, you can look up their financials. And then if the committee as a whole, that they then bring that back to the committee. If the committee as a whole wants to move that organization forward, then another group will go out and meet with not just the leader of the group, but will also meet with members of that organization's board of directors. And so that vetting process continues for weeks and weeks and weeks. So vetting total time from the time the first organizational meeting takes place of the charitable giving committee to when the final selection takes place can be 4 months or more sometimes. So it really shows that the race takes place on one day in September, this year, September 7th. It takes place on one day, but yet it really is a year-long process, right? At all levels. Morgan was talking about the organization of it. The planning of it takes pretty much all year. But the vetting process of all these organizations, again, is a very long and involved process because the organization and DeWitt, Davenport, who put this together, he wants the organizations that are benefiting to have a real impact on the community, right? And so, we can maybe talk a little bit more about these as we go through and how these organizations have an immediate impact. But I've been using an example as I talk about this and we go out in the community and talk about the race. I think a great example when people say, well, so how is the money really used? As you know, Grady, there's a lot of pressure on people. They're solicited all the time from different nonprofits. Can you help us? What have you? I mean, interestingly enough, yesterday alone at my house, I received 3 mailed solicitations from Cape Cod organizations looking for, money, what have you. So it's a lot of competition on the Cape for that. So they look for organizations that are going to have an immediate impact. So 2 years ago, the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center was one of our beneficiaries. And they were in the process of trying to get a food pantry constructed for veterans and their families on Cape Cod. And it was both emotional and both, I think, bittersweet to understand the need among veterans. If you think about it, these are the women and men that volunteer for our country, and they come home and they can't buy groceries, right? So this organization is there to help, but they were having difficulty trying to get a food pantry established. They were named a beneficiary for Seaside Le Mans. They received, I think they received just a little under $50,000 that year, and they were able to leverage that money and immediately put it to work and built the first veterans food pantry in Hyannis. And because of the Seaside Le Mans race, it's the only reason that happened. So it really shows you that if you decide to help out as either a large sponsor, as a team sponsor, or if you just make a small donation, every dollar that you donate goes right to that. And so from the moment that food pantry opened, it was completely basically booked out, if you will. They had kind of a fully subscribed need. And so I like to use that as an example of the impact that these groups have in terms of immediate impact on the community. So everything that we're doing, and these 5 groups, they're very diverse again this year. All of them in some way are going to take this money from Seaside Le Mans, and people will be immediately helped by it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was interested in the because we have a new the Brazilian Resource Center. That's a new one, and so I was kind of curious to know, like, I assume that is like a process that takes a little bit more because you're thinking about like a new face to bring in. Like, tell us a little bit more. I think that they also had recently been rebranding a little bit, so it's like a whole thing that goes on, like a daisy chain of dominoes. How many metaphors can I fit in a sentence? But yeah, like how the process that goes through. If you want to throw out some other examples of kind of how this money is going to be used for some of these, especially the Brazilian Resource Center, but no pressure.
I'll talk about this one. So they recently rebranded. In fact, they actually kind of officially rebranded the night of our unveiling of the beneficiaries. Mike Macinas, who is their leader, that was kind of the official night where they formally said, we are now moving from health ministry to the Brazilian Resource Center. So from their inception, the organization had been helping initially almost exclusively Brazilian immigrants here to the Cape. Mike Macinas is, if you haven't met this guy, you've got to meet him. Maybe you've interviewed him, I'm not sure, but
I believe we have. Yeah. There's but he's been on before. Well, I'm sure he'll be back on again, especially after the Seaside Le Mans event with the money.
So Mike is just this unbelievable success story of kind of what America is about. He came here from Brazil, went to work for Cape Cod Healthcare, established a very successful career while simultaneously doing that, helped organize the Health Ministry Alliance and did it for free, basically, had 2 full-time jobs because they recognized the need to assist the Brazilian population. Estimates right now, maybe upwards of 30,000 or more people who live, especially in the Mid-Cape, are Brazilian or have come from Brazil. Mm-hmm. And the Brazilian population has become such an integral, important part of our community at all levels, spiritual, cultural, economic. The Brazilian community has become a major driver for the economy on Cape Cod, but there are challenges for them when they come here. How do I get a driver's license? Where can I start learning English? What do I do to just get myself integrated into the community? So Mike got this group going, and it's had a tremendous success story. So not only are they helping the Brazilian community, but they're helping other immigrant populations now on Cape Cod. They have an amazing operation that runs really on a shoestring, where they have free healthcare for people who are coming here and they need to get, examined when they come home, when they come into the country, or they're trying to get their driver's license so they can get to work, etc. So they're just doing amazing work that impacts the everyday community. So we're really excited that we have the Brazilian Resource Center.
Yeah, it's great to see the kind of rotation as well. And that's something that someone had asked before. Like, we have a lot of Portuguese support from the county level and stuff like that. And it's like, well, would that be Spanish? And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's actually, Cape Cod is tremendously welcoming for its Brazilian population. Right. But yeah, there's a lot of things that have been going on. You mentioned military. There's the industry for the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance, which shellfishing and everything has been big on Cape as of late too. And then of course Cape Cod Healthcare. So of course there's all kinds of stuff. We're touching every facet. Yep. Is there other? Sorry, you wanted to mention more as well about.
I'll touch on Heroes in Transition. You want to jump in on the others more, please? But Heroes in Transition, again, a really important group. Cindy Jones, which started that many years ago in Mashpee after the tragic loss that she and her late husband lost their son in Afghanistan. And Heroes in Transition basically was put together to help our heroes, our veterans who are coming back here, who need assistance integrating back into the community, etc. They do the Ruck for Hit, as you know, and they do amazing work helping veterans here on the Cape. They've been for many years kind of focused. They started in Mashpee, where Cindy Jones was from and her son, and have been able to expand into the Mid-Cape, but they've identified that there's a huge need even further down Cape. So they're going to use their money to expand veteran services across Cape Cod. And again, we actually do each year of the whole funding process try to find a veterans-related effort, because it's such an important issue here in Cape Cod. A lot of folks don't know that per capita in Massachusetts, Barnstable County has the largest per capita number of veterans in Massachusetts, here in Barnstable County, for the entire state of Massachusetts.
Really? I was unaware. Actually.
Tremendous number of veterans from one end of the Cape to the other. So a huge amount of our population here are veterans. So, and again, the largest per capita of all the counties in Massachusetts.
Okay, that's amazing. As well, I know Cindy Jones, I believe, had actually just been also recognized recently for the Maureen Wilkins Cape Cod Woman of the Year Award, too.
Yes.
So definitely something of regional acclaim that she is doing there for both Ruck for Hit specifically, but also the general Heroes in Transition. But as well, Morgan, did you want to tell us a little bit more about the Children's Cove or what Cape Cod Healthcare is doing in the meantime?
Yeah, absolutely. So Children's Cove is one of those beneficiaries that we wish we didn't need here on the Cape. They are doing God's work down there. They are the single and one and only advocacy center for children who are experiencing sexual or physical abuse. And they have formed this really great program called the Teen Task Force program. And what it is they have found through years and years and years of research that students are more likely to speak to their peers about issues that they're going through than they are to go to an adult. So what this program does is it trains students and adults alike as well to recognize these things, and also how to be there for each other and support one another when it comes to issues such as that are really difficult to speak about and really difficult to take the leap to actually tell somebody that you're going through that. So they're doing incredible work down there. We're really excited for them to be on our team here because, like I said, it's something that we really wish that they didn't have to exist, but we're really grateful that they do because they service all of the Cape and Islands, which is unfortunately a lot of people.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I believe also the Children's Cliff has been expanding recently with some money from Barnstable County, which once again is a, unfortunate but important. But also Cape Cod Healthcare. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about kind of what they're going to be using potentially with the money. And then also the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So Cape Cod Healthcare, they have been a partner of Seaside Le Mans for a very long time. Mm-hmm. They are they are building their cancer center at the moment.
It's the new
and
tower.
A lot of people, when they get a cancer diagnosis, outside people, not the people who are actually receiving the diagnosis, they think about all of the treatments and the medical things that they're going to have to go through, but they don't think about what comes along with that on top of just the medical aspect of it. The mental health aspect, the support for your families, all of that comes along with a cancer diagnosis. So what they're working on is a program to support people with families who are going through cancer treatment, not only just on the medical side of things, but mental health and assistance when it comes to childcare and say you're taking care of someone else and you get a cancer diagnosis, all of those support things that aren't exactly considered number one when it comes to a cancer diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Another important thing that unfortunately is it's a reality that we have to deal with. And then last but not least, you might talk about the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance and
Absolutely.
Some of the benefits to the community.
Yeah, so the Cape Cod Fishermen's Alliance, they have this program called the Small Boats Big Taste program. And what they do is they have a factory in which works with commercial fishermen to provide chowders and stews from their product. And a really cool thing, actually, that we found out that we weren't even involved in, which is really cool, and how our beneficiaries work together and just shows that what the race means as far as the community goes, is that we found out at our kickoff event when we announced these beneficiaries that the Small Boats Big Taste program was actually donating a large amount of their chowders and stews to the Brazilian Resource Center as a food pantry project, which just kind of touched us, because it was one of those things that we didn't have any hand in that, but Seaside Le Mans was what brought them together and started to get them to communicate. So it kind of just shows that, yes, they all stand on their own and serve their own purpose, but there's a way for them also to work together and just make the Cape Cod community better.
All right, awesome. Yeah, very interesting to see the ways that everything connects together in the end. Now, this is also, I'm assuming, a big economic draw for the Cape and Islands region, being at the Mashpee Commons, and it's a day-out event. I know there's a lot of things that are coordinated there from the Mashpee Commons point of view. But yeah, Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about the maybe the economic kind of choices made, especially with it being around that now we're calling the second summer, quote unquote. Right? But yeah, can you take it from here?
Sure. First of all, we want to really thank our partners at Mashpee Commons. They're amazing. And, what happened is the way we ended up at Mashpee Commons is when the race started on Main Street in Hyannis in 2001, from that moment on, immediately outgrew what they could handle on Main Street. So DeWitt and the team started looking for, what do we do now? And so Mashpee Commons became an option. And so without them, there would be no race. So we want to thank everybody at Mashpee Commons. It's an amazing time. But it's a really great family weekend event, right? So this takes place the weekend after Labor Day. We've got Labor Day weekend. Everyone's going to be having fun Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then back to work and school. And then, I don't know, there's kind of that letdown of, we're now past Labor Day. What's great about Seaside Le Mans is it takes place that first weekend after Labor Day. And it's really something great to look forward to as a family, whoever you want to come down with, your friends. It's a 4-hour endurance race. You can come into the infield and watch from inside. You go over the bridge we have and you can watch the race. You can watch from the outside. But it brings thousands of people into Mashpee Commons and over to the Upper Cape and onto the Cape. A lot of people come down here just for that weekend so they can either take part in the race or come and see the race. And we have a lot of families that come back year after year. There's an area for kids to play, family fun zone, all kinds of activities, food available. So it really is a nice way to extend beyond Labor Day, what we are calling the second summer. And I'm one of those folks that, man, I hold on to every bit of summer as much as I can. And I tell people all the time, they say, well, summer's over. I'm like, no, summer's not over until, what is it, the 22nd of September this year or whatever. So,
it's not over till November if we have our way.
We want to hold on. So it's a great, I'll call it late summer event, right? The second summer for me starts after the first day of fall. Does that make sense? So I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, it's a great event. It definitely is a great way to infuse some economic activity into the region. But at the forefront is the money that's raised for Seaside Le Mans. Something I want to mention about that in terms of just the economics of it. And this is so important. So, we're always, as we said earlier, we're always all being asked to help out with different nonprofits, charities, organizations, etc. One of the things you hear all the time, though, is, well, where's my money really going, right? Well, how much of my money is actually going to help the charity? I challenge people. There are very few organizations and charitable groups that can say what we're about to state right now. Every single dollar that's raised, every single dollar goes directly to the beneficiaries, period. There is zero administrative cost that we take out of the donations. What happens is the entire cost of running the race, everything you can imagine, from the gas, the carts, the day of expenses, everything, DeWitt Davenport and his family write a check and cover the entire expense. So every single dollar that gets raised goes to these organizations. So you can look at someone when they say, well, where's my money really going? And you can say every single dollar is going to these nonprofit organizations. And there's just very few options like that out there. And we're very proud of that because it really helps the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely an amazing accolade to be able to say in today's day and age, especially. So that is awesome, and it's great to be hearing that you might be approaching a new milestone. I'm sorry, 10 million. Is that what it was?
Yeah, slowly approaching. We might not hit it this year, but
do you have like the party poppers ready, like just in case?
Yeah.
But if not this year, then next year, champagne bottles ready to go.
You'll have to come down to the race next year if we're hitting 10 million.
If we hit 10 million,
put you in a car.
Don't tempt me. I got ready to go. Again, to have champagne, and I'm just going to be all over myself.
Right. Or milk, because I think at NASCAR, don't they use milk? I think they use champagne at F1, but I think
champagne.
One of the traditions when you win NASCAR is they shake milk. I don't know. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong.
I forget, and I don't think I know. I'm F1. I'm in for. But
there is definitely a racing circuit that celebrates with milk.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up at home
if you like.
Next year I'm gonna be covered in milk. Tune in for Sunday Journal in 2025 for this very, very smelly segment that we'll be experiencing. But that's also about coming up on time. And thank you both for joining me for this conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the Seaside Le Mans, the general excitement, maybe some Morgan's going to be your first time rounds? There's been any kind of challenges or surprises or some secret anecdotes you wanted to share before we wrap up?
I do want to shout out the Cape Cod Foundation. They are a wonderful group, and they actually manage all of the funds. So like Matt said, 100% of the funds go to our beneficiaries. And the way we're able to do that is that we don't touch any of it. It all goes to the Cape Cod Foundation, and then they distribute it out to the beneficiaries, and they're lovely to work with, and they manage hundreds of funds on Cape Cod. So I do want to give them a shout out and thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Lots of challenges, lots of excitement, but we're at this point in the process just very, very excited to be approaching race day. It's September 7th, Saturday, September 7th at Mashpee Commons.
Mm-hmm. And it's free, right, for spectators. So you get a great day of entertainment, 4 hours of endurance racing, and then again, come down to Mashpee Commons, enjoy some of the shops, etc., and come on by and say hello. We're going to have a great time on Saturday, September 7th.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. As well, for people who are interested, we do have the links for the Seaside Le Mans and all this stuff up on capecod.com, the description for this segment. And also for people who are watching the video portion, want to see our lovely faces, it's up on our capecod.com YouTube channel for those who are interested, and also in the description for that video, we'll have the links as well. So before I wrap it up, Morgan, best musical. Your theater. I wanted to get a quick theater.
And she's an amazing singer, she'd ask for
a singer. So the musical is the perfect. I used to do the lights when Cape Cod Community College. We did a couple of theater productions, and I did the light production. They're a little behind the scenes action, so I can't help myself. While you're here, best musical. What's your favorite you performed necessarily?
Probably a pretty popular answer, but Wicked is one of my favorite musicals. It was one of the first musicals I ever started listening to. I actually have a Wicked tattoo for both my New England roots.
We're on video. This is exclusive Cape Cod. Sorry for those listening. I can't help myself.
It just says Wicked. Nothing too special, but for a reference to the musical as well as my Cape Cod and Massachusetts roots.
The Boston roots.
Yeah,
Wicked High.
Pretty Wicked cool. So, yeah. Wicked is definitely one of my favorites. I love Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth. They're icons amongst others. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And
absolutely.
You've now passed the test. This was the final leg before the Seaside Le Mans could complete. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing. It sounds like kind of a lot of fun with the events, and great to have you both in. Thank you again.
Thank you, Grady.
Grady.
I'm Grady Collane, and thank you for listening to Sunday Journal.